Come to order.
All right, the record reflect we're back in session for this council president. For president, defense attorney,
Sarah Kane.
My name is Sarah Kane. Last name is spelled Kane.
Can you use the first name spelled?
Sarah.
Good morning, Ms. Kane. By whom are you employed?
PayPal Holdings. Yes.
And how long have you been employed by PayPal?
Since October 2015, so almost 4 years.
Have you had different jobs there, or you've done the same thing the entire time?
Yes, so I started as a senior SAR investigator, so just reviewing accounts for suspicious activity. And then I transferred into the Global Investigations Department doing the custodian of records last year.
And as a part of being a custodian of records, can you familiarize yourself with the actual PayPal records?
Yes, I do.
And what would your title is a law enforcement fulfillment analyst?
Yes.
And what would a law enforcement fulfillment analyst duties include?
So we respond to lawful requests for from law enforcement or government agencies for activity on PayPal accounts. So those typically include the main report information, activity log, so any changes on the account, and then transactions on a specific period of time that they're asking for.
Would it be fair to say that PayPal keeps a, let's say, for lack of a better word, transaction log? For an
Correct.
account?
Yeah,
And an activity log?
correct.
And did you get a subpoena from myself or our firm?
Yes, we did.
And were you assigned the case upon receipt of PayPal subpoena?
Yes.
And did your company and you respond to the subpoena?
Yes.
And specifically, what was requested and what was delivered?
So requested was 10 accounts worth of activity between September 1st, 2002 to March 27, 2017.
And who were the account holders that were requested?
Joseph McStay, the business account, and then accounts for Demcona, and then accounts for Summer.
And did you find accounts for Joseph McStay?
Yes.
And did you find accounts for Dan Cavanaugh?
Yes.
And you produced those
Yes.
in compliance with the subpoena?
Yes.
And how did you produce those? Did you bring a stack of paper? Did you file it electronically?
That was electronically, yes.
And did you get a chance to review the documents that we have stored digitally before your testimony today?
Yes.
And are those the true copy of the records that you provided?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about two specific accounts, the Joseph McStay account and the Dan Cavanaugh account. First, the Joseph McStay account with PayPal. Do you recall when that account was opened?
Objection, hearsay, secondary evidence rule. Records speak for themselves.
I do not know for sure. I believe it's 2003.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and put that account on the screen, okay?
Other than that, any other objection of exhibit prior authentication?
Well, we started, the custodian of records issue, the one who files the records, so we got to come to the
You're gonna have two locations to look at it, either on the screen or behind you. Occasionally, I'm gonna ask that you point to things, so there's gonna be a pointer there, but if I don't ask, you can look right straight ahead of that monitor. So this is gonna be exhibit 1021. Okay, so we'll start with, is there these are the documents, you provide them in an Excel spreadsheet format, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we were to look at the owner of the account, what spreadsheet do we go to? By looking at the options?
The main report information, which is the subscriber information on the account, is in the account info PDF tab.
Okay, we'll click on that. And so this will give us, what are we looking at here?
This is basic subscriber information, so name, address, email address, phone, and then any other items such as bank accounts, debit cards on the account.
And it has some information here, including the name, is that correct?
Yes.
What other information is contained on this document?
Business information, the account status, and the social for the account.
And there's some terms being used. For example, it says account type, business, and then it has verified. You see that? And what does that mean?
Just that it's gone through our business. It's provided valid documentation.
Because PayPal has a personal account as well, correct?
Correct.
So there's personal and business. And
Oh, sorry, yes.
and is there a difference as to what an owner of that account can do if it's personal or business?
Yes.
What is the difference?
I'm not sure exactly to get into that, to be honest, yeah.
Sure, okay. Well, let me ask you this. In a business account, receive payments from customers.
Yes.
And part of PayPal's usefulness is that people can use their PayPal account to, if they're a merchant, they can get payments online from their customers. Is that correct?
Section reading,
Personal account is just essentially for what?
Sending peer-to-peer payments to another PayPal account or purchasing items online.
Okay. And this has a time created line. Does that give us any indication or useful information?
That's the day that the account was opened.
Okay. And then the two logs that we talked about transaction log and activity log, correct?
Yes.
So I'm not going to go through from 2002 on to 2017, but I do want to go to a certain period of time of those logs, okay? So we'll start with the transaction log on this account, and we'll go to 2010, January 2010. Now, at the bottom, see, since you provided in PDF, Excel spreadsheet format, at the bottom there, do we see some tabs? And if we do, can you explain what they are?
Yes, so the All Transactions tab is just all cycles of a transaction, whether it be the initial confirmation, payment hold, rejection, so it just has everything. And then it's split out between PayPal debit card purchases on the next tab, and then payments received, so any payments coming into the account, and then payments sent. Yeah, payments sent, so any purchases going out or any transfers to another PayPal account will be on the payment sent, and then the withdrawals or any withdrawals to a bank account or credit card on the account.
So when you say withdrawals, does that mean withdrawals from my PayPal money that I get, PayPal funds, and then I withdraw that and maybe put it in the bank or something?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And then at the top, we have some headings. And if we can go back to the left side of the document, we'll start with, again, let's start with the first, where, all transactions have this. So PayPal gives information on the transactions, and those are identified by the headers of these columns. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, so the first heading is the date that the transaction occurs,
yes,
and the time that it occurs is next.
yes.
And if you wanted to take this opportunity to use that pointer so that the jury can know what we're talking about.
Great.
Okay, and at the top is where the name of the column is, correct? Okay. So the next would be the time zone. Oh, sorry. What's the time zone? And we might be not zooming out, but expanding those cells so that the jury can see exactly what's in it. Okay. So do you know what is the time zone?
So that's the time zone that the transaction was recorded. We have them in Pacific Standard Time.
Okay, so if we see, let's say, on line 4, if we see 1:16:25 a.m., that's going to be Pacific Standard Time?
Yes.
Okay. And then what's the next column? Name?
So that would be the name of the merchant, that if a payment is being sent out, if something is being purchased, the name of the merchant will be on there.
Okay, so that's somebody that Joseph is actually doing business with, whether he's receiving a payment from that company or sending a payment to that company. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then next is type. What does type mean?
Depending on, like I said before, this is all cycles of a transaction. So on here, it could be an outgoing purchase. It could be debit card signature purchase using a PayPal debit card. It could be an express checkout payment through eBay. So it'll just tell you what type of transaction it was.
And would it be fair to say that those tabs that you described earlier at the bottom could actually narrow, and you can concentrate on specific transactions like payments received or payments sent? You don't have to have all transaction, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, and then we have a header called status. What does that mean?
The status of the transaction, if it was successful or denied or rejected.
Okay. And then we have a subject.
Again, that's the same, the merchant.
Okay. Next is currency. In case you're doing business with other countries and other currencies.
Yes.
Okay. The next column it says gross. What does that mean?
The gross amount of the transaction.
And would it be fair to say that PayPal, on some transactions, take a transaction fee?
Yes.
Is that why you have gross and then there'd be a net amount of the transaction?
Yes.
Okay. So we would then go to the next column where it says fee. And it looks like the next column would be the net.
Yes.
Okay. And there's another heading, I think this is going to say transaction ID. What is that?
It's a unique identifier that we use in our system to identify a specific transaction.
So if somebody wanted to then go back and check a particular transaction, and they had that ID, they could then go specifically to that transaction.
Yes.
Okay. And then payment type. What does that mean?
So PayPal funds would be if a balance was outstanding in the PayPal account, and the PayPal funds were used to make that transaction, or credit card transaction, or bank account funded purchase.
We're looking on the screen here and we see PayPal funds. What are some other examples of payment types?
A credit card purchase or bank account ACH
Okay.
transaction.
So I can use my PayPal account to then access maybe my bank account or have another credit card that I have on file or something like that?
Correct.
Okay. And then it says, well, it has bank name and bank number in case you are using another source of funds, correct?
Yes.
And then it has from email address. So would it be fair to say that the majority of the transactions would be the account holder's email address?
Yes.
So that would identify that that person is doing the transaction.
Yes.
And then the next column is to whom the account holder is doing the transaction with.
Correct.
All right. And then we'll skip on over. There's a bunch of columns that are not used, but what do we have at the end here? It says balance. Is that a balance in PayPal funds, or is it something else?
That is the balance in the PayPal account, yes.
Okay. Do you know what balance impact note is?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Right. Now on this transaction log, I want to go to let's see, January of 2010. I think Mr. McGee's going to try to get tricky with his.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So where'd you want to go to?
Just sort of starting in 2010, January. Now, if you could just take that point here. We're in the subset or the tab of all transactions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go to, so we're looking at the date here. Where's the date? Okay. So, and so this, when it says all transactions, it's going to be payments received and payments sent, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So can we narrow that? And we're going to go to payments sent. Okay. Did we click the right button?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is going to be payments that Joseph McStay sent, correct?
Objection, calls for speculation this phrase.
So, I want to go, we see there's payments being sent in January, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So there was a column which said that to whom the payments are to be sent to. So we have that column that's in this example would be column Q, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So let's see, let's see if we can look at the date as well. Is that possible? So if we look at column P there, Ms. Queen, that's the account holder, Joseph McStay, that's his email, correct?
Yes.
And that's where the payment is being sent from, right? The next column to the right is a column of who's receiving that payment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The spreadsheet is so wide, it's hard to get everything together. So we're going to do the best we can.
Myself here. Easy.
Well,
Can I freeze this one too? The first one? A? As well? Yep, okay.
okay, so let's go back to the end of January.
Right here.
Okay. So we have we have Joseph McStay. Okay, so we see two payments there to Daniel Kavanaugh on January 4th and January 11th. If I say anything that's not correct, please correct me, okay?
Okay.
So these records indicate that two payments were sent one on January 4th and one on January 11th from Joseph McStay to Daniel Kavanaugh. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to bring over the amounts as well. Okay. So we can see the amounts. What are the two amounts? What's the amount on the January 4th payment?
$600.
Okay. And the January 11th payment?
$200.
Okay. And let's go up to the next one, which would be on January 12th. Is that right? Oh, no, January 18th or 12th? 18th. Is that right?
Yes.
And how much is that payment?
$50.
Okay. And let's go to the next one, which is January 19th.
$150.
150, okay, and we'll go to the next one. This will be on January 25th,
$100.
$100, okay. And we'll go to the next one, which is the 30th, 29th,
$75.
$75, okay. And 30th,
$62.
and the first, February 1st, $40, okay. On February 3rd now, there's an amount sent for $25, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then there appears to be a gap of about a week. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the next payment from Joseph to Daniel Kavanaugh would be on the 10th, is that correct?
Yes.
And what's that amount?
$900.
And what about the February 11th?
$200.
Okay. And then another payment on the 12th?
$800.
Okay. And then another payment on the 12th?
No, sorry, $3,000.
Okay. Now, do you mind getting your pointer?
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a difference on this payment because it looks like the payment source is a little different than the PayPal funds, correct?
Correct.
What are we looking at here?
The bank account was used for the purchase, or the transaction was the Union Bank account to fund the purchase.
Okay. So the next payment would be again on the same date of February 12th of $1,000?
Yes.
And is that was that done in a similar fashion?
It was funded in the same way. It was funded with the same bank account.
Now, there's a series of, it says credit card, MasterCard, credit card transactions. You see that?
Yes.
Do you know if those actually went through?
I cannot tell from this.
There was a column that indicated whether transactions actually went through or not, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can go to that column to see if these transactions actually went through. You see where it says status, that column?
Yes.
Of those transactions?
Yeah, they were right.
Okay. So those credit card transactions did not go through, is that accurate?
Correct, yes.
Do you know, by looking at the records, are you able to tell what happened here? In other words, is somebody trying to make a payment using a particular credit card number?
Objection calls for speculation.
Okay. We'll continue on we ended, the last payment we saw though was that February 12th payment, right, from Union Bank, that was funded from Union Bank to Daniel Kavanaugh, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna go to the next payment that went through, which would be on the 18th. Is that correct? Oh, no, sorry, the 13th, which is an e-check.
Yes.
What's an e-check? If you know.
I'm not sure.
Okay, but it's a source of payment,
Yes.
and that payment went from Joseph to Dan Kavanaugh.
Yes.
And that was the date of February 13th, and the amount is $3,000?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the next payment on February 18th. So there's a payment on February 18th, is that correct? Of $3,000? You see a column, yeah.
It
It
doesn't.
says update to e-check cleared? Or is that the same payment?
That's the same payment.
Okay, same payment. All right. 24th, the next payment,
Yes.
February 24th, okay. And what's that amount?
$100.
Okay. And is there a funding source for that?
PayPal funds.
Okay. And let's go to the next one. This is another credit card payment. It looks like the status was denied,
Yes.
so that one didn't go through?
Correct.
Okay. And then, let's see, let's go to the next one. That's March 11th,
Yes.
and that's for 3,000.
Yes.
And did that go through?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll go to just a few more. March 25th, there was a $3,445 payment. Looks like it was, funding source was a credit card, but it looks like it was denied, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that didn't go through?
Correct.
Okay. So the next one is right above it, which looks like another e-check.
Correct.
Looks like that did go through. Or no, was that canceled?
It was canceled.
Okay, so that did go through. Right. So let's go to March 30th. Okay, March 30th, that was also canceled. Update to e-check, correct?
Yes.
Right? And then June 1st. Says denied, another credit card denied.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at some point, is there any information that we could get where this account, Joseph McStay PayPal account, stopped transacting business?
So the last transaction on the account, as shown here, just be June 7, 2010.
Okay. And that, are those, now, is there a difference between user-initiated transactions and automatic transactions?
Yes.
What are those? What's the difference?
A user initiated is the account holder would have to initiate the payment. and they're automatic transactions, which is just a monthly billing purchase. So the top two transactions on here are billing, so they're automatically charged each month.
So if we're looking at, are you able to tell through these columns whether something is automatic or whether it is user initiated?
Yes.
What column should we go to for that information?
Back.
Back to the other side? Okay.
So the top two
You
PayPal
want to use your pointer? And,
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
The top two are PayPal monthly billing. So you know that this is just billed automatically each month.
Okay.
And then the next one down is from the actual PayPal account itself. There's a credit card for the payment.
So would it be safe to say that the last user initiated activity on this account is June 1st?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to come back to Joseph's records, this transaction log, but I want to go to Dan Kavanaugh's records, okay? And we'll go to the same transaction log. Now, we're showing you the same exhibit 1021, but a different account. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we'll go back to the account holder page. Report overview, the first tab. Okay. Oh no, it's not this. Sorry, this. Yeah, account info. So this gives us the same account info that you described earlier for Joseph's account, correct?
Yeah.
And what are we looking at here? Whose account is this?
So it's in Dan Kavanaugh's name,
When was it started?
February 13th of 2010.
And what kind of account type is it?
The business account.
Was this account ever a personal account that was changed? That you know, or is there someplace where we can look?
And look in the activity log.
Okay. Actually, then we'll start with going to the activity log. Okay, and again, on the activity log, well, there's only one tab, it looks like, or two tabs, but one is the report overview, right?
Yes.
And then just activity log, correct?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that the activity log is different than the transaction log in that it's just including the activity of the account?
Yes.
Okay. So, again, we have headers. I'm not going to go through all of them again, but I do want to talk about the second header there, the second column. What is that?
The IP address.
What is IP address?
IP address is a series of numbers that are unique to a computer or device used to access the internet.
Okay. Is there something else that the IP address deals with as far as PayPal is concerned? Sorry?
Location.
So the location of the user device when they access PayPal.
Objection, assumes facts on this lacks foundation.
Okay, so I want to go to January of 2010 on this activity log. Forgive me, Mr. McGee's a little slow, so we'll get there. All right. So let's start with, we'll go to January 1st, or January 3rd in 2010, that's the first transaction. On January 3rd, 2010, there's some activity, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the activity that occurs, how do we know what activity occurs?
In the action tab.
The action? Oh, the action column?
Yeah.
So,
Logged in.
got it. So, on January 3rd, Daniel Kavanaugh account logged in, is that correct?
Correct.
And if we go to the left and look at the IP address, that would be the according to PayPal's record, that would be a unique device at a particular location.
The objection, again, assumes facts not evidence and lacks foundation that she knows.
Is that correct?
That's the IP used
Yes.
for the session, correct?
So on January 3rd, with that IP, there's a login. Then we go to the next transaction on January 5th, and the IP address for January 3rd and the 5th are the same. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the next one would be January 14th. It looks like there's 3 activities that occur: a login, a log out, and a login, correct?
Yes.
And at those times. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it looks like there's a different IP address, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then we go to January 26th, correct?
Yes.
And it looks like we have, again, logging in, but now it's a different IP address, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. If we could just scroll down a bit. Down, yeah. That's good. All right. So, on January 26th, there is a different type of action. It says web-created merchant-initiated payments.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I can just see from the action data that it's a billing agreement between PayPal and GoDaddy, but I don't know anything additional.
Okay. So would that be, well, I'm not going to ask you to speculate. It says what it says, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have some web logins in January. Now, when we saw the earlier Joseph McStay transaction, and we saw the payments being sent to Daniel Kavanaugh, was it being sent to this account?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I want to cut back to the transaction log for Daniel Kavanaugh. And this will give us the transactions for the same account, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we're going to go to payments, we'll just go to all transactions. And let's start at January 25th. When I say January 25th, I'm talking about 2010. January 27th. January 25th. So let's see, is there, oh, okay. Let me go to payments received, actually. Go to payments received. Because I showed you payments sent on Joseph's account, correct?
Yes.
And then we're going to go to payments received on Daniel's account. If we were to match these two, you can look at the dates here of January 25th through, we went all the way through March. Are we going to see a corresponding payment made from Joseph's account and a payment received into this account?
Yes.
Okay. Now, does the person who's receiving the payment, how does that person get the money? Does he have to request it, or is it sent automatically? How does that work?
There's a number of different ways. So you can receive it automatically, and you'll get a notification that you've received a payment. You can also put in a request to have someone send you money. And then once they fulfill that and send that to you, you'll also receive a notification.
All right, so we had identified some payments being made by Joseph from Joseph's account in January. The first being the 25th, and we can see Earth Inspired Products. There's a $100 payment on January 25th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And all the way, the next payment being $75.
Yes.
These are the same payments we saw that were sent, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, the amounts that we're looking at here, prior to or up to February 3rd, before that week break, and remember we saw that there was a week break, 1 week from February 3rd to February 10th on Joseph's records.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in the amounts being sent in terms of, these appear to be smaller amounts, and then after that week break, starting with February 10th, we saw payments of 1,000, 3,000, 3,000, and so forth. Do you recall that?
Correct.
Okay. Now, how is it that, when I was asking you, how is it possible, how do payments get sent, or how does someone get a payment? Can it be initiated by the person receiving the payment? Do you know what I mean? In other words, can the guy receiving the payment, can he make a request to the account holder to send me money?
Yes.
And then the account holder can say, buzz off, or, okay, I'll send it, and then send it, right?
Yes.
Where would we look to see whether or not such a request would be made? Do we look at the Daniel Kavanaugh's account for that, or do we look at Joseph McStay's account for that?
It would show on both, but it would be in the all transactions tab.
Okay. So, Joseph. Okay. So if we're looking at, now we're back to Joseph McStay's account. So we're going to take a look at all transactions, and let's go to the beginning of February. Let's look at February 5th or 6th. Okay. Can you identify if there a request was made for a payment to be sent? Do you have a pointer?
Right here.
Okay. What date is that?
February 6th, 2000.
And who's making the request? Do these records tell us?
Yeah. Just in the subject.
It says PayPal money request from Dan Kavanaugh
Yes.
on February 6th.
Yes.
Did that ever get sent? Did anybody respond to that?
It looks like it was canceled.
Would that be canceled by the person requesting it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But it never went through?
Correct.
Okay. But there was an $800 payment that we saw earlier that was actually sent to Dan Kavanaugh, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's a few lines up, $800. Yeah, I know. There's some payments before that, but the 800 specifically, we'll take a look at. That payment was eventually sent, correct?
Objection, that assumes facts, not evidence.
It says completed, right?
Yes, it appears February 12th. Payment of $800.
Do you have your pointer there? Okay. So even though there was a request that was canceled, there was an $800 payment sent to Dan Kavanaugh, correct? Okay. Now, how did this get done if that request was canceled?
Objection, assumes facts, not evidence that they're one and the same.
Well, let me ask you, forget about the 800. How did listen, this request for the $800 payment was canceled. That's what these records show us, correct?
Yes.
Then how did, does this give us any information, these records give us any information as to how subsequent payments were sent, or who initiated or authorized subsequent payments to Dan Kavanaugh?
So this payment sent would have come from the setting account. It was completed successfully, so it would have had to have been initiated by the account holder.
Okay. And in this case, it's Joseph McStay, correct?
Yes.
So these records would seem to show us that Joseph McStay sent the payment on February 12th to Dan Kavanaugh, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, let me see. So, I'm trying to think how to ask this. At any time, if I wanted to go on the transaction logs or whatever log I need to look at to see if an authorized user is added or an authorized user is changed, where would I go to look for that?
In the activity log.
Activity log? Okay. So we're going to go to the Joseph McStay's activity log for that same time period. Look at that. This is, since I already brought up that $800 payment, we're going to go to February 12th. Or let's go to the beginning of February to see if there's any change in. Do we have any such changes here? Do you see any activity here that would give us any indication of whether someone else or somebody either changed the password or something to get into the account?
There is a password reset
When was that?
on February 10th.
February 10th? You have your, okay. It says user reset password. Right? Okay. Now since PayPal keeps the IP addresses, right? We have the IP address of the location and individual device that made that request. Is that correct?
Objection, that assumes a lot of facts on evidence that there's no foundation laid for this witness.
Well, the IP address is there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we looked at an IP address earlier for Mr. Kavanaugh on his activity log. You recall me showing you that?
I don't.
Okay. All right, we'll go back to it, don't worry. But anyway, so, no, sure, let's go back to that. Daniel Kavanaugh, we'll go to Daniel Kavanaugh so we can get his. Before we do that, we should do a copy of that so that we don't forget. Oh, there we go, side by side. Perfect. Okay, so do you see on Daniel Kavanaugh's records on the right? You see that?
Yes.
Is there, and PayPal has logged that IP address as 70.95.65.75. Oh, 69.75.
Yes.
And when we talked about the user-initiated changing of the password on February 10th, was that 10th? Okay. We have the same IP address, is that correct?
Yes.
70.95.69.75. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now we're going to just go back to, now we're just back at Joseph McStay's activity log. Okay. Now, the user reset password. Do you know what it says via web? Do you know what that means?
So a login was attempted on the PayPal account online, and then a password reset was initiated.
Okay. Was it successful? Do you know if it was successful?
Does it appear so? Because a new password was entered on February 10th.
Okay. Do you have your pointer? Okay. Enters new password. Okay, and then it says entered new password PW passed?
Yes.
Okay. And then it looks like there's logins after that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, February 11th, the next day, it shows user attempted to perform change password outside a validated session. Do you know what that means?
I'm not sure.
Okay. User taken to validation test. Do you know what that is? Okay. And then at the top, at the February 12th, at the very top of this page, it says user attempted to perform change password outside of validated session. Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay. All right. It looks like there's another password change on February 12th.
Here.
Just before that, it says web validation pass. Do you know what that means?
I'm not sure.
So about February 10th through the 12th, there's a lot of, it looks like something to do with the passwords going on. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then this account, we saw that there was numerous transactions through, you said the last user initiated transaction was June 1st, 2010, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You wouldn't know, even though it's from after February 10th, it then still says Joseph McStay, you don't actually know through these records who's actually the individual human being who's actually logging in, do you?
No.
Okay.
Let me interrupt you at this point. It's about the end of the paper. You recessed 1:30 this afternoon. Keep in mind that we have a form or express anything about the case that's discussed today. And let's get rid of that.